This episode is proudly brought to you by Optimum Financial Services Group. Optimum has the expertise to guide you through investment, tax, retirement, and estate planning, with a tailored solution to your individual needs. Our objective is to provide you with an optimum solution to protect your wealth. Optimum has expertise in medical aid, legal services, asset finance, and short-term insurance, as well as specialized services in commercial, marine, aviation, and personal liability. Don't choose the average, choose Optimum. Optimum Financial Services Group is an authorized financial services provider. Good afternoon to you. Welcome to the show. Today I've got a very special guest for you. Heybrech van Niekerk was the first lady pilot in the Silver Falcons, the national display team of the South African Air Force. All around the world, at the time when Heybrech became the first lady pilot in the display team, there was only one other team that I could think of that had a lady in the formation aerobatic team, and that was the United States Air Force Thunderbirds. So before the Blue Angels, all the Red Arrows had their first girl, we had ours. Heybrech joins me today. I'm very excited to have her. And please join in, ask your questions, your show too. Let's see where we can go with high performance teams. My name is Alex MacPhail. Stay with me. Heybrech, afternoon to you. How are you today?
Hey Alex, awesome. So awesome to be with you, and thank you very much for this opportunity. I must say my heart is racing as if I'm doing this show.
Does it feel like you're about to run and you're just waiting for the leader to say, smoke on, go?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so let's pretend I'm the leader. Let's pretend I'm the leader. I don't know if your show sequence started the same because it tweaked a bit over those years, but in my head, when I say smoke on, go, or hear the word smoke on, go, for me, it feels like the airplane bends down to the left and we start putting the nose down. We're building up to 300 knots. What's going through your mind now?
Sorry, I lost you there for a second.
When I hear the word smoke on, go, for me, I sit here, I can close my eyes and I can feel the airplane sort of bending over to the left, nose down, running in, speed pulling up to 300 knots. And we know we're going to pull about 4.5 Gs for the pitch at show center. What's going through your mind when I say smoke on, go?
Oh, I can just remember looking at those references and not taking your eye off them and just focusing and trying to just do what the leader is expecting of you, and keeping in position. Oh, just concentrating, because the amount of concentration to stay in position for 25 minutes, you're never allowed to relax. So it was rough. I'll never forget when the show was finished. You will never see me walk anywhere. I'll stand still for a while because I was shaking like this afterwards.
Did you find like the word smoke on, go sort of wound you up to like fight zone, like ready to zoom in? Those references become bigger and bigger, but yes. Like a cricket player will see that cricket ball coming really big at them, knowing how to swat it away. Did you find those references becoming more detailed and you were more focused?
Yes, yeah, totally more focused and just more switched on and just concentrating very, very hard.
Yeah, but fun. So at what point in the sequence did you remember sort of the automaticity kicking in a bit? Obviously there's safety, there's risks, there's performance and adrenaline. But at what point during the sequence did it just take it back a little notch so that you could settle in and enjoy? Did you ever get to that experience where there was just like, this is joyful?
Yeah, no, that was the Cobra maneuver when we flew the half clover. I could actually see the crowd line and the crowd at the bottom as we went over the apex, and that was awesome. Just like you could see the people and just relax a little bit, and that was awesome.
I didn't do the Cobra. So how long into the show is this? Like the first quarter, halfway through? Where does that happen?
I think it's about a quarter through the show. It's we've done the rollbacks and we started back into position, and now we're gonna do the Cobra. They do the split. We've got the 3 ship going one way and the 2 ship going the other way. So that was always, as the number 2, I would see the crowd lines as the number 4. You obviously start thinking about the wind and how much you must offset and where you must fly to and how you can become the leader. So it was quite a lot of thinking.
But I would agree with you, Heybrech. This feeling of a sort of a quarter into the show, like a couple of maneuvers in, you do settle down, and that sort of like if you watch a professional rugby match, soccer match, whatever it is. 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes in, the people you can see it's not nervous energy anymore. It's controlled accuracy and precision. And I certainly felt that myself. And you can just then, it's not that you're relaxing, but as you say, still the glance at the crowd line and see what's happening and how big is the show, because up until that point you don't really know where the people are standing on the show, etc. But it is a nice feeling that when you can compose yourself for the last half or the 3 quarters that are left, that you're settling in a zone control of your environment now. I like that. I like that airplane there over your left shoulder. It's a beautiful one. Okay, so let's go back a little bit, because we've dived into smoke on go right into the Cobra maneuver. But Heybrech, so I mean, you born and grew up in a whole bunch of different places. So maybe just talk about sort of formative years for us, for the listeners. Where did aviation bug hit you? Did you go to a lot of air shows as a kid, or how did aviation strike a place in your heart?
I've got a friend, Chris Steele, who believes in reincarnation, and he says, I loved it so much in my previous life that I came back to do it again. And I could sort of, think that was true, because I have photos where I'm not even a year old or 2 years old, and I've always have an aircraft either in my hand or next to me, or, my dad was actually very keen on becoming a pilot, but unfortunately with all the compulsory military that they had to do, he actually didn't get his chance to go into the Air Force. So the love comes from my dad, also from my grandfather's side. But for myself, it's the only thing I can ever remember since a very young age. I want to be a pilot. Yeah.
Okay. And did you get any before joining the Air Force as a teenager somewhere, 16 around? Did you ever get a chance to fly a little airplane?
No, my folks could never help me financially. So what actually happened is I was very little. My brother kept on lying in oxygen tents because my dad worked as a chemist in Witbank. So he had to leave Witbank to go where my brother could get healthier. So he had to leave his job and do everything from start. But my folks always gave me the best schools to go to and supported me in whatever sport I wanted to take part in. But to do flying lessons, they couldn't help me. Even in those days, you couldn't even get a bank loan to help you to do flying lessons.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to get in via either the SAA or the SAAF. That was my only 2 options. And, later in life, I thought, okay, my granny has got a farm. Maybe if I go farming olive trees, then I can get the money. Because at that stage, olive farming was so productive and, got a lot of money from it. So I actually went to Elsenburg as well for a while to study how to farm. To see if I can pull this off. But yeah, the love of flying was just too big.
So the farming was just a means to an end to get the money to start flying. But yeah, if you had your own farm, you might have a little 185 or something small to buzz around between farms or to the city and back.
It's still a dream, eh? It's still a pipeline dream. Yeah.
Great. Hey, Bref, we got some people joining us, people saying hello. Ian Finley saying hello. Jordan, welcome. Thanks for joining us again. We've got the Traveling Network saying hello. And Roy Vikruva, whoop, whoop, go Heybrech, Karen Heidenrecht, thanks saying hello. Pusaletsa saying hello. Somebody, I want to put this up here. So, Zorba Naomi, love your earrings, Heybrech. So there we go. Compliments on your earrings. Good choice of dress for the day. All right, so Kribben is joining us, a mutual friend of ours. Kribben says, hello, Heybrech. Hello, Kribben.
Hi, Kribben.
Did Kribben, was he an instructor at the time when you were a student pilot?
Student pilot was such a, it was so much hard work. Not long ago, it was so much hard work, I can't remember if he was there, but if he was there with Von Greifenberg and Rob Daniel and those guys, then yes, he must have been there somewhere.
Okay, cool. All right, Heybrech, so your passion was always there. And then tell me, so you went to the farm school as well, but what was your route to the Air Force? Did you apply while you were in high school? When did you start looking at the Air Force as an option, or SAA?
I actually applied, my first application went in when I was 16 years old. I applied to the Air Force, and I actually got a letter back telling they'll keep my record, keep record of me, and I just need to send them my matric results. So I was like, I'm going to the Air Force, I'm going to fly Mirage F1AZ because that was my favorite aircraft. And when matric came, I sent my certificate off and never heard from them again. And I was like, oh no, what now? Because you just had that dream, you didn't think of anything else. So for, I think it was, let me see if I get the timeline now correct. So I went out of the school, and then my dad used to work at Sanlam, and they had a program that I had to interface a new program for their advisors, basically, to sell policies. So I went and helped on a basis for them, but they said, no, it's nepotism, you can't stay. But all the money I made from it, I went into Elsenburg to see if I could go plant olive trees.
So you were planting your
time,
money into a school to help you plant money into more money to get a license.
Yes.
Okay, I like the way you think, Heybrech. That's very cool. Okay, so
And I
you go to
think-
Helsingborg.
Yeah, in that time I also applied to the SAA, but I applied 3 times and I fell out at 3 different stages, of the selection process.
Yeah.
And I was actually at Elsenburg, and I'm not good at biology. I never liked it, and it's now just biology, and the kids are young. You're sitting there, you're older than them, and the answers come like 1, 2, 3 off the top, and you're sitting and you think to yourself, "What am I doing here?" And I actually went and sat on the steps of Elsenburg, looking to Cape Town side, and I spoke to God. I said, "I need an answer now. Am I going to be a pilot? Must I just sit this out, just suck it up, study hard, get the degree, go with the plan of planting olives, or am I going to fly?" And Alex, it wasn't even 5 seconds when this Boeing 737-800 came straight over me as if he was on a low altitude circuit for landing. And Elsenburg is close to the Stellenbosch Mountains, so I looked up. I was like, "Okay, I'm very sorry for demanding this answer," but I walked straight to the dean's office and I said, "Okay, no, this is not for me. I'm stopping here."
Okay, that's a bold decision. That's, I mean, I appreciate what happened to you at the time with this airplane flying over. I mean, it's awesome. But then to actually action it and say, "I'm pulling out of here." I mean, at that moment when you pulled out, did you have something else? Like, what was the school or the Air Force or anything? You had nothing. You just had faith.
Nothing. I just had faith.
Okay.
They also told me they couldn't give me my money back for entering into the classes and stuff, so I lost everything. And I was actually jobless for 6 months. I sat at my folks' home and my dad told me, "Listen, you'll have to start doing something." And my second passion is actually weather forecasting. I used to do it at school and they could call me the weather station. They would ask, "What's the weather going to do this weekend?" And I will tell them, and it would actually like rain or be dry or whatever. And I thought, okay, let me go study forecasting. And forecasting at that stage, you could only study it at the University of Pretoria. And they wanted you to have calculus maths. Now, in my standard 8th year, I was in 3 different provinces for the whole year. So I lost out on a lot of basic principles of each subject. I actually flunked maths that year. I was very scared of going for, again to university far away from home. I was living in Cape Town at that stage. And so I looked what else did they offer at the weather services, and they had the basically the guy that's writing the meter for the forecaster to do the TAF, so the weather observation. So I actually applied, went for the interview, and I'll never forget it. They asked me the one question, they're like, "Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?" And without thinking, I said, "As a captain of a 747. I was like, and then I realized, that's wrong.
Wrong interview.
Weather observer.
No, that's good. That speaks the truth coming through. Then I think that's wonderful, and it's related. Being in a weather forecasting situation, that's actually it's good to be close enough to the industry. I mean, doing olive farming is wonderful. I'm not knocking that, but it's not very close to aviation. So it was a good next step. How long did you last as the weather forecaster?
Well, they told me I've got the job, but they knew if I had my chance, I'm going to leave. So I think it was 2001 July. I started at Irene with the weather course. I finished in February, and I was stationed at George Weather Office. And while I was actually doing my weather course at Irene, there was an advertisement in the newspaper for the Air Force again, like when you want to become a pilot. So I actually filled it in as a joke because I thought this is not going to happen. This my dream, I must get another way of doing my dream. And I filled it in, and I will never forget it. I sat in the weather office. I had a little receiver, seeing pilots coming in and go, and the SAAF as well. And then the guy would get out and stand in front of his aircraft, and somebody will take a photo of him. And I dreamt of still flying, and your heart was breaking, and my phone rang, and it's like I wish I can remember the sergeant or the staff sergeant's name. But he said that staff sergeant so and so, I would just like to know if you still want to become a pilot in the Air Force. And I'm like, yes! So he said, "No, we've been trying to get hold of you, but we can't get hold of you." And got onto the bus, went for selection. Most people don't know it, but the Air Force selection is very I think it's the hardest selection that you can get, because you write the test now. If you fail it, you send back home. So it was a lot of pressure I'm sitting there, and I can remember the piano.
But if we just pause a second, there's a lot of pressure, but that pressure comes from within. I mean, so just tell me what you're feeling at the time writing this test, knowing that this is a make or break. I mean, so just for people who don't know, you and I know the selection process, but it's about a 10-day process. But I mean, what are the thoughts going through your head writing this test? It's a make or break.
Exactly beforehand, but while you're sitting there, you start trying to get the answers and just trying to find the looking at the things and not going to stress mode, because if you go into stress mode, then you lose it, you lose everything. And I think my biggest thing is I always asked my savior to be with me every time of every step of the way, and asked him for strength as well to help me through everything. But
that's great.
That's the same.
Okay, so you get through this. I mean, it's not a. I think maybe we'll fast forward to the airshow stuff, so we won't go too deep on the selection. But it is a whole conversation topic on its own. You get through this. What's the time frame? But from that selection till when you hear anything?
It was July that I went, June, July for the selection process, and I got a call in September to start in October. So I told the weather bureau, like, I've got a month left and I'm leaving now. And they actually let me go. So it was actually quite awesome. They knew that if I'm going to have my chance, I'm going to go, because we started on the 2nd of October in 2002. We started basics.
So is this your third year out of school by now?
99 to 2002. Yep.
Wow. Okay. So it just shows you probably then applied for the first time in 97, somewhere there. In 2002, you finally get the call. So things don't happen just overnight. You have to work at it.
Yeah, it was 5 years and 5 applications. And the biggest thing is, whatever there is in life that you really want to do, don't give up.
Yeah.
Just keep on trying. Just keep on trying. If the answer will always be no unless you ask. And if it means you need to enrich yourself in knowledge, then go for it. I actually did it. I went for an aerobatic flip when I was in Standard 9, just to make sure that my body would be able to handle, the stresses inside an aircraft. And I went to do a radio course, the restricted radio course as well, in that same year with Peter Raustel. He presented the course for both myself and my brother. So I did all these little things just to test, will I be able to understand the language? Will my body be able to, be able to fly in the aircraft? And will it overwhelm me or won't it overwhelm me?
Those are nice little things to do, yeah. Are you speaking of your brother? Is it Philip?
Yeah.
Philip says, hello, sister. He's joining us there from YouTube. Thanks for joining us, Philip. And Craig Wood saying, how did Heybrech keep her hair so neat when she removed her bone dome? The bone dome's a nice term for a helmet. Thanks, Craig. Yeah. All right. And it says, this is my screen name. I am Heybrech's dad. We're also watching. Oh, good. So that's it. I really understand from the comment earlier. Awesome. Okay, Heybrech, that's great. You got your whole family supporting you, and that's just the way it should be. Maybe it feels like airshow day when they're all standing there watching you. Okay, so I mean, it's quite a common theme with people that I've spoken to on the show where, you hear no a lot. And, well, some people are prepared to take a no. Some people are prepared to take 2 no's. Some people will take 5 no's. The leader of the Red Arrows, who's now racing in the premier Red Bull Air Race, Ben Murphy, he was rejected 5 times from the Air Force too. He ended up leading the Red Arrows. So if you want to take a no at the first time, well, that's your choice. But if you keep going, you might get something beautiful. And that echoes your story. Okay, so tell me, Heybrech, by this point, it's 5 no's and 5 years is a long journey for anybody. By now, you must be feeling that day one on basics, putting on that uniform. It doesn't matter what you throw up, I'll get through this. Is that, or what is your mindset? I assume that's your mindset, having had so many no's.
I had only those wings, and those wings were like my goal. I just want to have my pilot's wings. Whatever happened else, I don't, I'm just going to push through this. I saw them as little mountains to climb every time. And the pilot's course was like Kilimanjaro, the big one. So I just, every phase, basics, officers, the academy, I just sat there and I'm like, okay, this is my little mountain that I need to climb over to reach my goal. And I just get those wings. Yeah.
If there was a tough spot on the course, you're saying, so this tough spot, it feels like it's all consuming. You're just picturing the wings, you're picturing Kilimanjaro, and you just plod one foot in front of the other and get through it.
You just pick up your sack of salt and you go again. Deep breaths and you go. It's going to be worth it in the end.
And it's quite nice to talk with you about this as well. I remember being on basics. This was in 1999 on basic training here in Pretoria. And also, the lows and the tough points. I just used to think that if there ever has been an Air Force pilot who went through this and qualified, then I can too.
Exactly.
If it's possible for anybody, it's possible for me. There's no one person that's necessarily better than another. You just got to decide, are you determined enough to get through this or not?
Exactly. What I used to do is I used to pick out the most laziest person that I knew didn't do their work. And if they can make it, then I can also.
Yeah, that reminds me of that saying, don't come first, don't come last, don't volunteer. So you just have to be a bit ahead of the people at the back and a bit behind the people in the front and just get through. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek because obviously you do want to come first and certainly you don't want to come last. Yvette Gous joining us from Facebook saying, Heybrech is a remarkable lady. So much respect for her, a dear friend of mine. Thank you for joining us, Yvette. And Jordan is saying, I love the success story and the rise to realizing the dream and passion to fly. Well done, Heybrech. That's determination and tenacity. And Mark Whitson joining us from LinkedIn saying, hi, Alex, if Heybrech could bottle your passion for flying and sell it, you could both be multimillionaires. Great conversation. Thank you. Well, thanks for the kind words, Mark. Okay, so you're on pilot's course. And I had another little superstition. Maybe you share any of yours with me. At the time of pilot's course, basics all the way through the 2 years, I used to drive a Volkswagen Jetta. And there was a time around there, the late 90s, where the Volkswagen had the badge, but they also had a badge with wings on it. I don't know if you recall that. It's a bit like not like the Air Force wings which go down. It's like the American wings which are sort of flat at the top. And I remember wanting to buy those for my car, but I would not buy it. I would not put that sticker on my car until I got my wings. I saw that as a superstition. Don't tempt fate. Yeah, I would never do that. And in the end, I never did buy them. I got my real wings, and that was good enough. I didn't need to. Did you have any little superstitions like that on your training?
Not superstitions, but I actually had somebody that gave me their old wings, and I kept it, in a secret compartment. And every time you went through this dip and this low, you just looked at them and it's like, I'm gonna have those one day. I'm gonna have those one day, and you just went on there. But no. But
you had it in a secret compartment because it was a bit too a bit out there to have it on display because it's tempting fate or you're not deserving of it yet.
Yes, it's more like. There's a word in Afrikaans now that I'm thinking about.
That's fine. No problem. Okay, so we get through pilot's course, and you stream to go. You mentioned the F1AZ. By then, there is no more F1AZs in the Air Force, and you stream to go transport line, or did you choose transport by the end? What happened in that point of your career?
Actually, it was a very interesting time because there was a big drive to get a certain group to the fighter line, and. Okay. Alex, you're making me say now something that I don't want to say.
You don't need to say anything you don't need to say.
But it will explain why I got the position, because I wanted to go to the Jets fighter line, but they didn't want me to go, but I was first on course. So normally when you're first on course, you get to choose where you want to go.
So congratulations.
Thank you very much. That's the part I didn't want to mention. So Colonel Barr at the time, he fought with the colonel that was in charge of the fighter line, saying, but she's first on course, you need to give her wish she wants. So it was so yes, they streamed me for the fighter line. The fighter line, at that stage, there was about, I think, 40 or 70 of us waiting to go into the fighter line because of the whole Hawk Impala interface that took place. And I basically waited for 7 years to go into the fighter line because there was just delays and stuff. And by the end of 7 years, the general that was then in charge of the line asked us to be very honest. And I said, General, I've waited 7 years. I want to go on. I want to be a transport pilot. So I want to start because I can't put my career on hold. I need to progress. I need to learn something more. So, and then I joined the transport line, which is why after being an instructor at Langebaanweg, I went to the transport line.
Okay, but all right. So but now you fast forwarded past the days flying air shows.
Yes.
So were you streamed for the transport, the fighter line, and went to caravans initially and back to Langebaan?
Yeah, we were in holding pen at 41 Squadron, yes. And then
I see. Sorry, I was confused. Okay.
Yeah,
right, so you weren't streamed for transport.
Movement.
Yeah. You went to transport in the meantime, waiting for fighters, and came back to fly as an instructor. Okay, good. Yes. All right. Yeah. So you knew while flying transport, also, flying caravans is awesome fun. You do quite a lot of nice ops in the Air Force with a caravan, but you knew that this was just a stepping stone, and it was most likely the fight line at the time always put people by instructor's course. Was that an exciting thing to go back and teach?
It was something that I thought, it will enhance my abilities and give me something more for my own career as well, rather than to stagnate and sit by the transport line. Because, like you say, they do amazing things. I was so overwhelmed about how much you can fly that caravan and how, what types of operations you can do. I mean, we landed on Land Rover lights. We had two vehicles that's parked in certain ways, and you land at night and doing a dark hole approach. I mean, that was truly awesome. But then I opted to go back to instructor schools so that there's something that I can build my career on that's, a little bit higher and for getting ready for the future, basically.
Okay, so you went there, some people went there, they were kind of begrudgingly sent there and maybe had a good time, maybe not. But if you go there with an open mind to build a skill, that's great. Yeah. And obviously you'd seen the school as a student and you'd seen air shows as a student as well. But going back there as an instructor, what point are you thinking about the Silver Falcons?
The first time that I can remember a clear memory of wanting to be in the team was when I was in Standard 9. We watched the air show at Eisterblaak, and Colonel Dave Knudsen led the team. And just the way, they flew, their accuracy, their professionalism, how they handled the people, I was such inspired by that I'm a person that believes in honor and dignity. Courage and integrity, and I saw all of that in the team, and I thought to myself, I wish I can be part of that. That will be like a dream out there, and if it happens, it happens. But it's there. It's going to be hard. It's going to be maybe an impossible road maybe to walk. Yeah. But the dream was there, from yay back when.
Okay, so would you say that it was a bigger dream than the F1AZ? I'm just trying to put it into perspective here.
Yes, since you can't fly the F1, it was about the same, and a little bit more.
Okay, cool. All right, no, that's great. And you arrived back in Langebaan, and now that's another sort of 9 months or so the training to become an instructor. And it was at the time where I was giving instruction at Langebaan that you were coming back to be an instructor student. So it was a good time. That's where we overlapped. But tell me, getting through the course, obviously you got to get your head down, and when you qualify and you start teaching students, that's a whole new ball game. I mean, what was your experience of actually teaching?
What the military does, they give you the specific guidelines on how to teach people. So obviously when you've done instructor's course, you are so, excuse the pun, but you're fed up of this whole sequence of doing things that you try your own way. And I actually saw that my students were suffering because there was no golden thread and there was no sequence for them. As soon as I went back to the method that the Air Force taught me, I could see, instantly this improvement in my student of just getting better and better and better. And when your students start getting better and better, and they even surpass you, that's like an amazing victory in the inside where you just scream and go, it's awesome. So it was a big privilege to be part of somebody's life and career, to teach them something that they've never done before. These kids, some of them have not even driven a car yet. Some of them have not even they've driven a bicycle. And you're taking them and taking them all the way to solo and letting them fly an aircraft on their own. I mean, it was amazing. It was really amazing.
It is. It really is an amazing privilege. And when you frame it like that you are allowing someone else to fulfill their dreams. If you imagine you on the other side of that, or you think back to when you were a student and the people that were influential, you just had that one flight with that one person. I told you earlier, Craig Wood joining us about the bone dome and your hairstyle. He was the flight commander when I was a student, and so he probably doesn't remember me in the same way, but I remember him as this person that was part of facilitating my dream. So it is amazing that you can then go back and offer that to somebody else. So now you get the fulfillment out of that, and structures and routines. That's an important process, and there's debate about how military do things. But there's good and there's bad. But certainly you saw the good in the routine, the structure, the way we can deliver the message to the student, and you saw them flourish, and that's a great thing. So settling into that, at what point what's the next logical step in terms of trying to get into the Falcons? Are you thinking about that? Are you planning it? Or does something just happen? Or what was the next step for you?
It was always there in your backbone, but they also had their requirements to join the team. You had to be a BCAT instructor, and to be a BCAT instructor, you had to give 200 hours of instruction and then obviously pass the BCAT test. So when you start out as a CCAT, you've got about a year, maybe 2 years before you can reach that goal. Once you get there, then you need to wait for a position to open. So sometimes you're lucky when the position opens, and sometimes you're not. I can remember the first time I actually was approached for the position was for GLO in the team, the Ground Liaison Officer, where Team 70 at that stage, it was here in 2009, they were, testing certain individuals to see if they can cope with the work, because the ground liaison officer was basically the backbone of the team. That person had to make sure that the team was well rested, that the accommodation, transport, the S&T, everything was sorted and catered for. And on show day, it was your responsibility to make sure that the airspace in which they flew was safe. So if you saw birds or anything out of order, then it was your responsibility to call the knockoff to the leader. And there was always learning opportunities and stuff where you can't just call a knockoff in the middle of show unless it's dire straight. And I can remember the one time with Roy, it was at the Virginia Air Show. They were busy doing the pushover, and he suddenly told Scott, "Knock it off, I've got oil on the canopy." So they stopped the show, and at that stage, you've got all these safety personnel on the air show itself while you're sitting in this tower that now wants to start, intervening. And now you are the person to tell them that, listen, just stand by. They do have it under control. And you're just talking to them, getting everything on the ground ready. So at that stage, I didn't speak to Scott at all, the leader at the time. I didn't speak to him at all because I knew what they were doing. They're going to bring Roy back. But I got everything on the ground ready. I got all the emergency services ready. I spoke to his wife to make sure that she knows he's fine. And at one stage, one of the safety officers actually came onto our frequency and started speaking. And I had to say, listen, please, can you stay off? They know what they're doing. You're interfering now. So being the GLO was a very, very hard job. You worked from the morning that you got up till the evening. You didn't sit down, but it was such a privilege to be there for the team, and make sure that they do their show safe and they are good at what they do. Because in the end, they would come ask you, how was this maneuver? How was that maneuver? And you had to give feedback as well. So you had to be. What was nice about what Scott taught me is that you have to be truthful and honest and direct. In a team like that, you need to be able to take criticism because it goes about making the team look better. It's not attacking an individual. It's like we want to help somebody to just realize, okay, maybe you've put in a little bit more rudder, or maybe you put in too much aileron. And then in the next show, you can actually see the person correcting it. I will never forget, we sat with one of the inauguration flights. Me and Bo sat next to one another. Now you're watching this video of all the aircraft flying past, and we didn't say anything about anybody else, but when our video came up, we started criticizing ourselves, and the jetties behind us is like, we can't even criticize yourself because you guys do it by yourselves. It's like, yes, we want to make it perfect. It must be perfect.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's good. You've given you've given a nice sort of summary of the role of GLO. In fact, more than a summary, you've given a nice example too. I mean, I also took the role as the GLO first, but what a great way to get familiar with the team. And it's not to say that if you were the GLO, you had a fast track into the team. In fact, there was a bit of a curse up until me, where it was a string of GLOs who did not get selected for the team, and it seemed to change. But certainly the ability to understand the routines and how things happen, and just follow the airshow sequence and how things work and deployments and all those things. It was the only place in the flying school at Langebaan that actually deployed was the airshows. And just to be familiar with the ground crew and the support and the other airshow personnel from the civilian world as well. And I certainly found it to be a privilege and something that helped me to understand the role. And should you get into the team, you're a little bit more familiar than if you just arrived in the team. And certainly your comments and your discussion there echoed that sentiment. Okay, how long were you at GLO for? It was about a year.
Yeah, I was Team 70's GLO, and then obviously Team 70, Team 71 was busy to be born, and there was fly-offs, and we were 12 members to fly off for 2 positions. So
wow, that's quite a 12 into 2 doesn't it's not such an easy connection.
Yes. So but it's actually what they do in the flyovers. They make you do it at the base because they want to put you under the same pressure that you're going to be when flying the display, to see how you cope as a human being. Are you going to, if you make a mistake, are you going to make it worse, or are you going to go rather for safety side? And that was also always a key component, to be safe. So that was a tough day because I think I went last as well in this fly-offs. And and I think a month later or so they announced that me and Bo Skara got the position. So that was quite.
And what a feeling,
I cannot explain the warmth and bursting of your heart when you heard that. I can't explain that at all. But, you know, at the time, I just want to say this, at the time, there was a lot of push to get women into positions. And, you know, for me, I'm not a real fan of that. I believe as a woman, if you are capable of doing the job, then go for it, you know, go for it and go do the job. And it was very important for me to not be a woman that's placed in a team because I'm a woman. So I went to each and every member of the team. I said, guys, did you give me this position because I can do the job or because I'm a woman? And they all said, it's because you can do the job. I mean, in my current job as well, I went, during my interview, I told them straight, because, you know, am I here because I'm a woman or am I here because I can do the job? Because that's for me very important. So many people hide behind certain things, and, you know, I find it very hard for myself because there's so many other people that work so hard, and, you know, they study hard and they want to achieve that as well. You know, that, you know.
Well, certainly, Heybrech, I mean, to come first on course, you know, it speaks for itself in volume. So I don't think there would have been any doubt there whether you got it in because they wanted you there or because you were the right person for the job. But just going back to the emotion of that day, you know, we got another mutual friend and a great man, Andrew Schofield, sending his message. He says, "My very best wishes to you both such dedicated professionals, and a privilege to know you." Well, to you too, Andrew. Andrew was busy making that Silver Falcons video. There's been a few over the years, but Andrew was doing a nice documentary for the team when I was there. And he happened to be there at the time where we did fly-offs for the new team members. And he was there on the day that we were going to announce who the new members were. And Detoy was selected, and we were all in the main hall on the base with the whole base, 800 to 1,000 odd people there. And this announcement was made, and Andrew was there live with his camera, and Detoy picked up the phone call, picked up his phone and phoned his wife, and we got that captured on video, and it's beautiful. I mean, to just see that real raw emotion, it's a super exciting day, super exciting. But then the work begins. So tell us about the work is like to be trained up as a Silver Falcon pilot.
I'm telling you, there was days that I would fly twice a day. And I would sit in my office with my head on the table because I was so tired of concentrating the whole time that I actually thought at one stage, Heybrech, what were you thinking? This is so difficult. Because, you know, I'm not a pilot that things come naturally. I need to work very hard to get something to perfection. But that's every time my goal is to get that perfection, you know, that spot of perfection. And I can remember, you know, Gerrit Lawrence was my instructor that trained me into the number 2 position at that time. And he was hard. You know, you would do a wing over and then a loop, but in the wing over you wanted to relax because you're not used to concentrating so hard, so you will shift a little bit out of position. You're like, no, you need to stay in position, you cannot relax. So no, it was hard, it was tough. It was, I think, everything I've ever done in my life, it's the most toughest thing you can do is to learn to fly formation aerobatics. But it gives you the most amazing joy.
Did you find it harder for you to learn how to do it or to teach someone else to do it?
No, to learn how to do it.
Replacement. Was training your replacement an easier thing because by then you were accomplished and it was an easy thing to pass that skill on? Okay, all right. Look, I'm not saying that it's easy to get in, but I found training my replacement, not because the replacement was a difficult student, not at all. I mean, it was an excellent replacement for me, but I just found it was kind of tense. It was nerve-wracking, you know, to teach someone how to do formation aerobatics in low level is a scary thing. Okay, so back to the training. How long is that training? It's about sort of what, 40 sorties or over 2 or 3 months? I can't recall exactly. Was it about that long?
Something like 40 sorties, and we took about 3 months training. Yeah.
And
it was tense.
And so where was your first?
Every day.
Where was the first air show? Was it at the base or somewhere on the deployment?
Dude, we got the baptism of fire.
In Highveld, hot Highveld.
No, our first show was the Simonstown Naval Festival, where, you know,
it's not so windy there at all, eh?
Dude, I'll never forget being spanked by the ejection seat during being inverted during the loop the whole time, just being hit by the seat as it's windy and gusty of that wind coming over the mountain range. So no, that was our baptism of fire, was first air show there. And the second air show was actually at Ellis Ras, so at the highest airfield in South Africa. So we got a proper baptism.
Oh wow! And you I mean, so this thing that comes later when you're a bit more established and you get this feeling of imposter syndrome where you wonder, am I really worthy of, as you're about to event and whatever sort of begin on an event like a display, like your 70th display, you wonder, is it me? Am I actually good enough for this? And you go through it. But in the beginning, it's not quite imposter syndrome. You actually don't think you're good enough yet. But sometimes you look at that footage and to the untrained eye, it looks okay. It looks acceptable. It's definitely safe. It looks acceptable, but it felt anything but acceptable for you in that cockpit, the bouncing around.
Because you're constantly moving and you're trying to sit still next to the guy. Because sometimes it happens. You get that. It's like a moment where the angels start singing in your ears, where you actually see the other aircraft not moving, and it's just stationary. And you're like, I got this, and then it starts moving. It's like, oh, God.
Yeah. Well, we've got some people joining us. Jeremy, Bongani, Ella, Albert joining us. Andrea Emke saying, hi, Heybrech, hope you're well. Another mutual friend. Corin Heybrech saying, did you find that being a woman, let me put this one up. Did you find that being a woman in aviation was difficult for you? Did you have to work harder than your male colleagues?
It's a very interesting question, and I'm going to be super honest. In aviation world, remember, it is a man's world. It was very dominantly man's world. But in my case, I had a handful of instructors, male instructors, that saw the potential in me, and they taught me everything they knew to help me to reach my potential. And what I've also found is if a person is not insecure of who they are and where they come from, they treat you like they're equal and you deserve to be there. But otherwise, it can be tough at times. But I mean, any job, it's not even aviation, any job anywhere, you will always have somebody that will try and how can one say, sort of try to put you down. But you must remember, it's actually them wishing they were you. That they're wishing that they had the inspiration and the passion and the commitment that you had. So you must, in a way, you must feel sorry for them and try and help them if you can. I don't know, but that's just my take on it. But no, I've had the most amazing guys teach me to fly, and I'm just trying to pay it forward at the moment.
Well, that's great. Nice to pay it forward. And I remember you saying that you're now busy with your civilian instructors rating. It doesn't just pass over. If you're an Air Force instructor, you don't just become a civilian instructor. That requires a bit more work. And Andrea is asking now, Heybrech, tell us a little bit more about human factors, just to feed my passion. Andrea busy doing a PhD in human factors, and we sit together on a work group as well. So human factors in a high-performance team like the Formation Aerobatic Team, the Silver Falcons. Tell us a bit about human factors and the interplay and the communication, etc.
I think in a team like that, the biggest thing is you must be allowed to be open and honest with one another, and you mustn't, you must be able to say what needs to be said, whether it's a good or a bad judgment call. And then as the person hearing that, getting the criticism, you must be able to take it in, listen to it, work through it, and then improve, and say, okay, I hear you, I think I can do better here, but I'm struggling with this, can you help me? In life, we sometimes want to prove to people that we can do things alone, but that's when we actually struggle more to get things right. The more you can get people to help you and to give you knowledge, I mean, that's that old Air Force saying that we had, skills, knowledge, and attitude. I need to have the attitude to, be able to want to learn more things, to, want to get this right. Then I will go into the knowledge part where I will go read up and ask people about it who are subject matter experts. And then eventually by practice and their guidance, I'm going to obtain the skill. And then I'm also going to become the professional. And then I can also pay it forward and put it for somebody else.
That's a wonderful summary of skills, knowledge, and attitude. Thanks, Heybrech. It's coming back to me from my instructor's course days.
Remember EAP. I can't remember what EAP stands for, but I can remember EAP.
Empowered Environment Program.
There we go.
That's what EAP stands for.
The how you talk to this person, the child, the parent, and the adult. If somebody talks to you and the child is don't.
That's transactional analysis. Yes. Burns, Eric Byrne. Okay, we're getting deep on human factors here, and I want to point out something about some air shows. So while you are thinking about a memorable air show, you mentioned earlier, I'm going to ask you about your most memorable air show, but you were talking earlier about your first air show going over Simonstown, my hometown, and being upside down and being hit by the ejection seat. Talk to me a bit about the situation. So high-performing teams, thorough preparation, you execute with precision, and you review. Now, you could be in this situation where you've strapped in and you got all ready, But in the moment, once that smoke on go happens, as we spoke in the beginning, the show's on, you realize through a maneuver that your seat or your strap or something isn't quite right. There's no way you can fix it in the show. You have to finish the show as you are. So how does a high-performance individual correct for that? What do you do practically when you're being hit by the seat?
You just ride it out, dude. Like you said, there's no time to release your hands to do something to assist the situation. So you know there's a discomfort, but you don't focus on it. You focus on the references, you focus on the calls of the leader because you're expecting things to happen, next, what's next. So you sort of put it in the backdrop. But the one thing that always, I can remember the one guy asking me, what is my most difficult maneuver? And I told him, it's when the sweat goes into my eyes. Because now you've got glasses on and
you can do nothing. Yeah.
You can't get the sweat out of your eyes, and this aircraft is next to you, and your eye closes. You're like flying with one eye. I have to see this aircraft. So then, when you've got like a little, there are some stages in the show where you've got like 30 seconds where you're busy flying away, forming up again, and then that little time you can take quickly your hand and try and wipe out the sweat or readjust your seat or something because you're flying away from the crowd. They're looking at somebody else at that stage. You had places where you could cheat a little bit and just see if you could sort out whatever was bothering you. But then for the next show, okay, I need to make sure this is tight, or I need to make sure
yes.
I don't have sweat or something like that. Yeah.
So that comes down to the review. If you have your own personal review of it, I mean, you can't do much about the sweat, but you can know, like, okay, so for the next show, if I know it's bumpy, I'm going to strap in extra tight because this might happen. But it's a great story. You mentioned the most difficult maneuvers to get through. I hadn't thought about that in a while, but you've just reminded me. I'm going to add that to my story in the future too. Are you giving me permission to use it? Okay, so I want to get to a memorable air show. What stood out for you? Which air show stands out? And I know there's lots. 75 air shows, that's a privilege. I mean, I was in the team for 3 years. I got to 45, and it was wonderful. And I count my blessings for having done so many. You double that. So is there any 1, 2, or 3 that stands out? Any place or experience or feeling?
No, they all were amazing. They all had their own uniqueness about them every time. I can say to you which was my favorite break. That I enjoyed the most. That was.
What do you mean your favorite break?
The break, yeah. Remember 2012 AAD?
So we did the
6 ship with the A340.
Okay.
But before AAD, Roy and Bo actually came to me and they're like, listen, we want to do a 6 ship break, but we need you to go vertical with Roy. So are you willing to try give it a try? I'm like, okay, yes, let's do it. Mm-hmm. So we went out practicing. And I had Mike Richmond in the back with me, and I told Mike, I'm like, Mike, I'm going to look 90 degrees to the left now. So at any stage when you feel uncomfortable that we're going to hit the ground, you take over control, you break away, and you just tell me and I'll call the knock it off. But I'm going to look primarily 90 degrees to the left to look at Roy. So me and Roy would fly towards, Bo was flying from head on, and then Roy would give the call. And to try and get those pitchings at the same time, because if you pitch too hard on him, you actually go higher than him. If you pitch too slow, then he goes higher than you. So it was like, I think 3 or 4 of them that we practiced, and I finally got the rhythm from when Roy calls the call to how much to pull back and just sit next to him and how it's going to look like, because you're completely doing a look next to the guy all the way up over the top. And afterwards, Roy and Bo came to me like, so what do you think of the break? I'm like, no, it's pretty cool. There's just one thing though. He's like, what? I don't know how we're going to see Roy through the fuselage of the A340. Like, oh, we didn't think about it. So, but that was still my favorite break was that one, because to get that right, I did cheat a little bit, I will be honest. In the running for the break itself, I used to just go a little bit down so I can just see the belly of his aircraft. So when he gives the call and I see him disappear, and I know it's pulled. But the rest was all muscle memory for that few split seconds until you got a visual on top. But that was my favorite break.
But those little tips and tricks, like you calling it cheating, I mean, that's what you need to do. You need to find that sneaky place in the cockpit, or how you must hold your arm, or when. I mean, I think if you mention a cheat like that, I think of the same thing, and it's a necessity. It's for safety. It's for the show. It's everything goes with it. And I can remember that part of training Butti replacing me. That when you go through the sun, I mean, you got your glasses, you got your dark shades on, you got everything. You have to keep looking at the aircraft, but obviously you can't stare directly at the sun, so just shift it. Even though it's not your reference, shift to another place, just for that moment till the sun's moved enough that you move back, and that's somewhat of a cheat, but it's also somewhat necessary. So these little things help you along the way to continue the safety, continue the precision, and keep the show looking good.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And safety is always the number one. Safety first. Yeah.
Okay, so you land back on any of these shows. Let's pick a show. Virginia's a good one because it's nice on the beach there. And you land back after a show, and the nice thing is that the taxiing in, you get a bit of applause and appreciation from the crowd, and you can wave a little bit, and you shut down. And tell me about that moment. So earlier you mentioned you just stand still for a while. So what's going through your mind, and those first few minutes after the prop stops spinning and you open the canopy?
Scully Levine always asks me why don't I wear makeup at air shows, but man, when that prop stops and you pull off that helmet, you are soaked. Your hair is soaked, your face is soaked, everything is soaked. So I used to sit, and the first thing I would do is I would take my earrings out and then put my earrings back in, because they if you put your helmet on in the aircraft, they actually drop out, and then it's a hazard inside the aircraft. So that was the first thing I did. I put on my earrings, and then I will get out, but I will get out slowly because my whole body is just shaking like this. And I would stand still. You would see I would be around the aircraft, but I would walk very slowly, and I would stand a long time just to get that initial adrenaline rush out of your system. And then it would go on. But yeah, it was every time you landed back and it was a successful air show and everything went well, you got that gratitude inside of thank you, it was awesome. It was amazing, and let's do it again. Let's go for perfection again.
And then the next part, I mean, it is a great part of being in the team, doing the show, performing live. It's a great part just being in the team, being camaraderie, whether somebody's watching you or not. But another nice part for me was then to go and sit at the table or wherever it was with the crowd, and tell me about those experiences. I mean, was it easily acceptable that you, the lady in the team, were actually flying the plane? Was there any funniness around that? Did people gravitate towards you? Were they questioning whether it was really you flying? I mean, what those kind of stories? Anything standing out there for you?
Yeah, you do have the stories where they will say, "Oh, but there was a guy controlling your aircraft from the ground," or sitting with you were flying the aircraft. There were those stories. But what was sad for me is that, we would go to all these small little towns, and the little girls didn't believe that it was me flying the aircraft. They would say, "No, that's," it was so sad for me, because then I would tell them, "Listen, I'm flying it this time again, so look at me. I'm going to walk to that aircraft with the big number 2 or the big number 4 on. And then you'll see I'm climbing into that." And after the show, when everybody left, we sometimes will allow, the kids to come to the aircraft, and we put them inside and, let them see how it is and everything. And, so a lot of people were overwhelmed being the first lady, and they wanted to meet me and everything. I'll never forget the one time they misspelled my name. They called me Heybrech. But yeah, you will always have that interesting stories. But what amazing time! You meet the people. I know when they are so in awe of you doing that, and you actually just want them to also realize their dream, to know that, listen, it's hard work. Sometimes it feels like you're not going to get there, but if you put the work in, and if you put the dedication in, and if you work hard, you're going to make it as well.
And expect to hear some no's along the way too.
Exactly.
It's not, the first no is just an opportunity to try again, maybe a little bit differently, maybe just the same again, but certainly to try again. So did you do any of these sort of events where you would join Siandiza or one of these programs and go to the schools to speak to some children?
Yes, I did it with Fatima. Fatima invited myself and Scott the one time to go, help them with their little 8th day there. And what a memorable day. Just seeing them building their little aircraft, flying them and everything, that was awesome. And I got to speak at a lot of schools as well. Especially they wanted me to speak to the girls, and again I would say, no, I want to speak to the boys as well. I want to speak to everybody, because we all have a dream that we want to achieve. Yeah. So, and the biggest person that is going to keep you from achieving that is you, because you choose to listen to the negative thing. You choose not to act on it, and you choose not to try it out. So if you can convince yourself that you are willing and you're able to and you deserve it, I mean, you'll be able to set mountains apart.
So when you went to these schools, did you go with Fatima and Saki Kamfa, or was it in your own right as well, the schools part of things?
Fatima, the Air Force side, also my own. I recently did one at one of the schools here in Stellenbosch as well. where I spoke
Okay.
to the kids there. They just had a career day. What their principal basically did is invite people of different jobs to come talk to the kids, so the kids can have an idea of what is out there. So that was also a nice one that day.
And if somebody, you know, there's a few people watching the show now, if somebody is interested in having you come around, is that something you're open to discuss? Going to a school and talking to some kids? That's great to hear. It's a wonderful opportunity as well to share your passion. At the same time, when you're sharing your passion, you can see, and maybe you remember being that 15-year-old kid looking at someone telling their story and knowing that that's the thing you want too, and that you can actually go in there and you can get it, and you can show them the steps. And more importantly, I think, particularly in your story, Heybrech, that you had the nose, you had these bits where you fell over, you had to try other things, but you didn't give it up. You just kept at it.
Yeah, and that's the golden rule. Is just try again.
Yeah. Okay, and now, so your time in the team must have been a really nice. It was that you were in the era where the team was stable for a long time. Wasn't a lot of changes. I mean, to get 75 people in the 75 displays in a team, there was quite a stationary team for a long time. Everyone in the team got lots of displays, and that must have been a nice bond, a bit like a pack of, like a band of brothers, as it were, that would just go out and fight things. And is there still a strong relationship between the people that you did shows with?
Yeah, there was ups and downs in those days. You stepped on a few toes as well. So we're still there for one another, but it got interesting because we actually were 3 teams. We were 71, 72, 73. So we were quite a lot of changes.
Okay.
But you mean...
So you were the stable one, and there are lots of changes going on around you.
Me, Roy, and Mo, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the 3 of you got on well. Okay, cool. All right, and I mean, to summarize it, so it's a great privilege. It's a wonderful opportunity, and it's a great way to push your own skills and see if you got the mettle to do it. And certainly, you can see from the smile on your face now you've enjoyed your time there. How do you decide to leave that?
It's hard. It's really hard. The Falcons has got like a golden rule. You stay with them for 2 years, and if you're not the leader, then you move on, because there are so many other people that also wants that opportunity. So, if you stay there, you're actually impeding on somebody else's dream. So in that sense, I decided it's time for me to leave. And one thing that Scott always told me that, it's still today, gets stuck in my head. He's told me that if you are not scared anymore of what you're busy doing, then you must hang up your flying boots. And I got to that stage where I got so comfortable in the aircraft where I'm not even 100 feet above the ground. I'm doing a 60 to 80 degree turn, looking outside, not even looking at the instruments. And I felt that I'm getting to that position where I'm getting too comfortable, and I need to, take my career forward again, because there's still so much I want to achieve. Then also giving somebody else a chance in the team, so that their dream can also be realized.
Well, Heybrech, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. It's been wonderful chatting with you, and all good things come to an end. And similarly, we've had a conversation which has just gone and gone. It was a wonderful conversation. I thank you so much for your time, and good luck redoing your civilian instructor's rating, and the privileged student that gets to come and learn from you. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, I'm sure they can find you on any of the socials. So for a talk at a school, you're probably going to get flooded. But thank you for your time, and all the best with the rest of your career.
And thank you very much, Alex, for this and everything that you do for us. And thank you for your time as well. And thank you to everybody that stayed and tuned in to us. And thank you for everything you guys have done. Have an awesome week.
Thanks, Heybrech. Well, folks, it was nice reminiscing about some airshow days, certainly with a wonderful guest, the First Lady, Silver Falcon. Thank you for joining us. And please join us again next week with some more exciting guests. See you then.